we are going to do a heavy feed on our sourdough so that I can make some sourdough rolls overnight and actually like make the rolls tomorrow, but I need to do the mixture and let it rise overnight to be able to cook those rolls tomorrow. Okay, so first things first, this is my sourdough. I did not feed it yesterday, so it's going to be really hungry. So you see there's like, kind of looks like a crusty on top. I'm gonna pull that off and just toss it. So all that little crusty is that the flour that's sitting on top of here had dried out. But if you look, there's still lots of bubbles. It's still nice and active. It's not mold. It doesn't smell moldy, nothing like that. It just dried out because I forgot to feed it yesterday. But I had given it a heavy feed the day before, so it's still nice and active. I just want it really, really active to be able to use it in my recipe. So what we're gonna do is take this larger jar, and you can see this is full up to here. I'm gonna use this whole jar, and then I will separate that into these two jars instead of discarding. I'll just separate that other jar in half, and then I will go ahead and feed both of these as well, just because. So we're gonna dump all of that in here. I will actually probably wash these before I separate it because they're getting kind of gross. I'm gonna add 3 cups of flour to this. This can double in size, so I don't want it to overflow. I think maybe 2.5. That'll probably be about halfway to the top. That gives me plenty of room where it can double and it won't overflow. All right, now I'm gonna start adding some water. Again, this is filtered water. We have a water filtration system, so I just run it through that. If you do not have filtered water, you can boil your water and let it cool back down, and that will boil out any chlorine or anything like that that's in your water if you have city water, or it'll help like with the mineral and extra stuff if you have well water. I don't know. I know I've seen like some people use well water and stuff and it works just fine, or city water without boiling it and it works just fine. I just use the filtered water to make sure. So we're just gonna mix this. About the sourdough that freaked me out in the beginning, and just kind of step by step from here on out, because after day 3 my sourdough was good. Yours may take 7, 5, 10 days to be really, really active, and that's okay too. It depends a lot on your temperature in your house. Sourdough is literally sourdough like it sounds. It's gonna have a sour, at least slightly sour smell. That's because it's fermented flour. That fermentation process is what gives you the ability to use it instead of yeast. It's a naturally forming yeast so that your bread and your dough will actually rise in your recipes. If you do not have that fermentation process going on, you're not going to have a rise, and you need a yeast of some form in order to get that rise in your bread. So it's a really long way of saying that this is basically just yeast, and it's supposed to smell. It's not supposed to smell like rotting. It should smell just like something fermenting. There's a big difference, but fermenting, for people who have never smelled something that's fermenting before, may smell really bad. So just be prepared for a smell. That's totally normal. The first couple of days, I actually think it smells worse, like day 1 and 2, than it does after that. After day 1 and 2, it just smells but like day 1 and 2, it has a funky smell, and that's also normal because my sourdough is fine and it had that funky smell. But just as like a heads up, it will smell. I've had people ask me if it's normal, and it is. So I just like to tell you guys what to be prepared for. This is going to rise and should end up being up here by the time I go to use it. I'm not going to use all of this in my recipe, but I like to make discard pancakes. So whatever we don't use will go in the fridge, and I can use that as a discard to make like pancakes or something like that. Or I can just save it, dehydrate it, whatever, to use at a later date. If you are not wanting to feed your sourdough every day, once you get it to this point where it's nice and active and you could actually cook with it, you'll know it's at that point because it will either double in size after you do a heavy feed or come close to that doubling in size point. That's when you know it's ready to cook with, okay? So you want it to be able to double in size. And this one's like already growing because it was not. I'm just gonna show on camera right now where it's at. It's here, so like a little above the halfway. It was like right here where we'll go. So this is growing really fast. I have lots of bubbles going on in here, and I will flip the camera in a minute to show you guys all of the bubbles going on. It doubles in size. That is when you know that it is ready to use, and that's what you're looking for in order to cook with it. Once you get to that point, if you're like, yeah, I want to be able to cook with this, but not right now, and I also do not want to feed it every day, that's fine too. Take your sourdough in a jar, or you can just like put this in the refrigerator and just feed it once a week. Feed it once a week, separate your discard. I've noticed my discard smells funky after a couple of weeks in the fridge if I don't do anything with it. So I try to cook something with my discard at least once a week so it doesn't get funky, because it gets like pretty funky smelling after a couple of weeks. So keep that in mind. And I usually just give it to my chickens or my pigs at that point if it gets too funky. But you can just let it hang out in the fridge. Feed it once a week, set a reminder on your phone. If you're like me and forgetful, set some type of reminder so you remember to pull it out once a week. Discard, do exactly what we did on the day 3 video. So you're gonna discard, feed it, and you can leave it out, or you can feed it and then put it in the fridge. And what that does is it slows down the fermentation process. So the sourdough is going to eat the flour or ferment the flour a lot slower, which is why you can go down to feeding it once a week when it's in the fridge versus daily when it's on the counter. Another pro tip, if you are going to put your bread that's rising or your sourdough starter in your oven to rise, because the oven's a really good place to put it when you want it to rise and it's too cold in your house and you're not getting the rise you want. You can put it in your oven and turn your oven light on, and that works really, really well. But put a sticky note over your oven if you have any other humans in your home that like to cook, because I've seen so many people have melted bowls, just like literally explosions of sourdough all over their oven, and you do not want that. So put a sticky note, put something over your fridge, put something over your oven, over the like on and off button or the preset buttons where you set the temperature. Put something that keeps people from just going and setting your oven and baking your sourdough, because I know this is not oven safe. And most of the bowls that I mix my bread mixtures in for the first rise are plastic, and I don't want melted plastic bowl all over my oven. That just sounds absolutely horrible to clean up. So pro tip, put sticky notes up, put something up to keep people from preheating the oven and ruining your bread or your sourdough starter. Because once you've baked it, you have to start over. Like, you have to completely start over. And even if you're the only person in your house, it's never a bad thing to do that, because I have accidentally turned on my oven to preheat it for something when I had rolls rising in there. I just like forgot for a second and was like, oh, I'm gonna go ahead and put this in the oven. Remembered a few minutes too late and it messed up my rolls. They were like still edible, but they weren't as good as they normally turn out. So keep that in mind. Doesn't hurt anything to just add a sticky note. Okay. If you guys have any other questions on how I do my sourdough or what I do with it, please leave those down in the comments below, because this is pretty much it. I just do what I did day 1 through 3 in my previous videos, and then I keep up doing day 3. Some days I'll feed it twice a day if I keep it left out on my counter. If I'm not cooking with it a lot, I'll stick it in the fridge, feed it once a week, and pull it out for a heavy feed before I cook if I'm gonna make something with the sourdough. And that's pretty much it. You can dehydrate it, you can make, there's so many recipes on YouTube, on Pinterest, on TikTok, like there's so many recipes for the sourdough starter. So I highly suggest you look into those recipes, look into discard recipes. There are crackers and breads and pancakes, like I said before, and I'm sure there's desserts and all kinds of things that I have not made yet. So yeah, it's very useful to have and know how to make your own yeast, which is essentially what we're doing. So that is it. This is our container, our heavy feed, and I will show you at the end. I'll just put a little clip of how high it's gotten to show you what it looks like when it's like really going. But yeah, that's it. I want to thank you guys for coming and hanging out with me today. If you, like I said before, if you have any questions, please leave those down in the comments below. And if you liked this video, please be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and I will see you guys later. Bye.